Welcome to Right There With You, where we lean into life's biggest questions, challenge what we know, and discover the strength we've had.
This is my dear friend and co-host, Ciarra Jones, theologian and lifelong explorer of faith, identity, and purpose.
And say hello to my co-host and buddy, Cass Cooper, a professional chaos whisperer who loves untangling the complexity of human relationships.
Here we embrace the journey, no matter how uncertain, messy, or transformative it gets.
And no matter where you are on yours, we're right there with you.
Hello. Welcome back to the pod, everyone. Ciarra is here, of course. And then we have our first ever podcast guest. I'm so excited. It's like we're an official podcast because now we've got like other experts that we draw on. It's not just me and Ciarra talking. So I love that. Lyndsey, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Love being here. Thanks for having me. Doing really good. It's Friday, so almost there to gardening time. I'm ready to put some flowers in the garden again this weekend. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So for people, we know you, but for people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll kind of go into, our topic today, which is rewriting the narrative. So tell us a little about you.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Lyndsey Hoffman. A little bit about me personally. I'm a single mom of an amazing freshman in high school. I'm also a leader, a builder, I think, of communities, of businesses, and honestly, healing spaces like this. But more than anything, I'm somebody who I've spent my really last few years, but a lot of my life really learning how to come into myself. So excited to be here and have this conversation with y'all today.
Yeah. So I love the come into yourself idea. So we'll come back to that. But Ciarra, how are things going? How's the jobby job? Like, what's up? Tell us what's new with you this week.
Oh my goodness, what is new with me this week? I think in alignment with our conversation today, which is like, the stories we tell about ourselves and our lives, is I have a habit of like retroactively feeling like my life was better then. I feel that way always when I'm in a new season. I look back and I'm like, I wish I'd go back to that previous season or appreciate that more or go back into that place. And so I've been trying to figure out how to maybe address that with myself, how to have maybe more positive narrative where I feel like every season is building versus feeling like every season is something I should have appreciated more. Like, how do I see it as a foundational process of building versus a process of missing out on something or not appreciating something? So I've been thinking about that a lot this week. I think that's been coming up because I was self-employed for 2 years. Now I'm in full-time employment, and there's some blessings to that and there's some grief to that. And I think I've been trying to make sense of how I feel about that transition and what I want to do around that transition. So that's kind of where I've been this week. But what about you, Cass?
Yeah, things are good. I too am very grateful that it is Friday. This week has been unexpectedly busy.
Yeah.
And I think also I'm getting a little anxious. It's the last month of this year before summertime. So that's always busy, like with just travel for work. And we're in full swing event season. And then we've got things going on with Little and stuff at our school. Like the school sent this, I swear, it was a whole list of all this stuff. It was like a packet of stuff I have to sign and send back.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how are you going to pack all of this into there's literally 4.5, 5 weeks of school left. So why are we doing all of this? And couldn't you have told me this like over spring break so I could be prepared? And it's just a whole thing. And then plus the close of cheer season, and it's just a lot. So it's just been busy getting ready for the next season and summer and all of that stuff and change in routine and all of that. So yeah. And Lyndsey, you're going to be planting in the garden, which we love.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
And it's so funny too that you say about the kiddos because my son's 6 months away from driving, so I'm kind of in that same. It's like
God.
compiling all the, where do you fill in driving hours? Where do you fill out and go to school? It's definitely juggling all the things, and that's gardening's my way of finding. It's planting myself.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like I try to at least 30 minutes every single day after work, because I'm kind of in a similar space where like I was consulting for a year. I've been in the corporate space. Now I'm kind of back in the corporate S&B space, and so it's one of those that garden just replants me and also reminds me. I love that we're talking about seasons because gardening for me really reminds me that like growth takes time. It's patience. It's watching, you're planting something and you may not see something come up right then, right there. It may be a week from now, but also getting to see it grow and flourish and bloom and blossom and potentially provide a little nutrition for yourself. There's so much that it just brings me a lot of joy, and I've really found that place for myself and that passion to keep me balanced so that I don't lose myself through the chaos
Yeah.
of motherhood and work and all the other things that we
Yeah.
as women have to deal with.
Big facts. Well, that brings us to our grounding question to start our conversation. So tell us, Lyndsey, what story about yourself or your identity or your worth do you recognize now that was like never yours to carry? We've talked in previous episodes about the ideas that we had about ourselves, and specifically in terms of like religion and culture and how we hold on them. And then one day you wake up and you're like, I don't know that I actually think that or believe that, or it's no longer serving me. So what's one of those that it has been holding on to you and you're realizing like that's not really for me and that's not really mine to carry?
Yeah,
I,
I love this question, and I get asked this a lot because my
Go ahead, Ciarra, what's up?
well,
oh
I was gonna say, as you answer that, could you end it maybe with saying how gardening helped you in that process? Because
Ooh,
yeah,
so I love your question, Cash, and I want to say maybe we could book in or like in that with
yeah,
yeah.
where's gardening in that process for
I
you?
love
Yeah,
that.
100%. And it's funny because gardening was part of this overall process. So I kind of, really over the last, I would say decade, but really the last 4 or 5 years have been really kind of incremental in my overall personal growth and what I call finding myself. I started living by this narrative of my life as somebody else's permission slip. So I'll keep that as like a, top line before we really get deep. I I woke up one day and that story that I had told myself that I had inherited was kind of the aspect of your success equals sacrifice. So like being a mom, being in the workplace, all these other layers of just being an adult, being a woman in society today, is one of those that like we're supposed to sacrifice something so that we can be successful somewhere else. So potentially like I'm supposed to sacrifice my family time so that my career can succeed, for instance. And I've
Mm.
spent a lot of times, a lot of that story, really diving into the why do I feel that way, understanding where I come from. I grew up in a very small rural city in Texas where there wasn't a lot of access. We were told to kind of go by the storybook. You got to go to school, you got to get a college degree, you get married, you have kids, you have the house with a white picket fence, and life is just perfect. And real talk, that is not reality.
There's a very small subset of people that either one is reality. And if it is
Yeah.
their reality, it's making them happy. So whatever.
Legit. Legit. So, like, I was holding myself to all of these, like, societal norms or what I was taught in this kind of very southern rural picture, especially as a woman, of what I was supposed to be and what I had to do to succeed. And I think I had a very pivotal moment that really impacted me in a way that I'll forever be different. I am a trauma survivor in multiple different ways. And I had the opportunity to go to the Philippines and do some social impact work in the community there. In Cebu for human trafficking. And I had the opportunity to speak to 60 women that were being trafficked, that were currently in a trafficking situation. They had come for help and inspirational conversations. And, I really put myself in kind of this, trauma affects all of us no matter what your history, your background, your normal day-to-day life. We all have our own version and color shade of whatever that may be. That moment impacted me because I connected with people that had really only saw me for what they saw today, not seeing my whole or knowing my whole life story, looked to me as a beacon of hope. And it was the first time, and mind you, I was in my mid 30s, and a lot of my trauma, sexual, physical abuse happened in my childhood. And it was the first time that I had openly spoken about it and told my truth. First time ever,
And that was just like five
so
years ago.
yeah.
My
Mhm.
gosh.
Yeah, 4. Just we're coming up on 5. And so it like shook me in a way, like the way that all of these women responded. And, I had some of my corporate colleagues in the room. So I was really like, stressed of like, I'm going to share this story and people are going to look at me like, wow, she's broken. If you didn't know that already, I'm a little neurospicy. So people already kind of look at me like I'm a little broken, which is fine. I call it superpower broken, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes us all just such beautiful different that's the differences, like that's the beauty of being human, is that we're all different and
Mm-hmm.
we get to learn from each other. But that moment really shook me and I thought, you know what, like I am absolutely never masking again. I'm never holding back my story. And I really started to like pull on this thread when I came back from the Philippines of like this life that I've created around myself, it's not truly me. Like it is
Mm,
me, but I'm hidden. You're only
yeah.
seeing 3 colors of the painting instead of like this painting behind me that has 37 different colors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those where I went, who made this? And who told me that I had to live in that box? And who told me that I couldn't speak about these things? And who told me that I had to be softer, quieter, more reserved, more hidden, whatever, you want to kind of put over that. And it just really shattered my reality. And the more I pulled on that thread, the more not only I found myself, but I found my joy. I found the balance, and I found like gardening was a big thing for me, putting my hands in soil, getting dirty, and realizing that life is dirty. Our stories are dirty, but they're also beautiful, and they bloom flowers at the end of all that dirty. And so there should be I should, and everyone else I think in these types of spaces should have pride. Because if you have pride in your garden bed at the end of the season, why wouldn't you have
Mm-hmm.
pride in that same season of your life?
Ooh,
Come
that's a
on,
word.
Lyndsey, you're preaching to
My
God right now. That
God.
was
Like, you are like, where's the pass the plate?
yes,
Like, damn,
Love that.
okay.
Pass the plate. Yes. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think like our trauma so much is there's so much of things that it almost like defines us in a way that is, like you said, it's hidden in plain sight. And this idea that we're the only one who has ever experienced yours is specific to you, right? We're not, that's true. But you're not the only one who has experienced trauma. And there's connection that is so just on the other side of sharing the story and being not just brave enough, but just honest enough
Yeah.
to share that with other people and pass that along because there, like you said, there's beauty in it. There's beauty in the darkness. There's darkness in the beauty. Like there's all
Mhm,
these things that go along to it. Wow,
mhm.
that's a lot. Yeah.
Can you share
Okay.
more about like gardening and the connection of embracing our full story? Like I think like something that I think was so beautiful about what you shared was also about how embracing your full story meant telling your experience as a survivor. And I think sometimes, especially in the world of social media, we think like telling the full story is telling the shiniest story, or
Uh-huh.
the story that makes us seem most impressive to others versus the story that's true. And like when I think about gardening, something I love is like throughout the season, so many things happen. Like I might lose some plants to weather conditions. I might over prune something. I don't know, all these different things happen. But you're right. At the end of the season, you're still left with this bed that has all these amazing fruits and vegetables. And if someone came and just looked at it, they would say, oh, you had a perfect gardening season. But they wouldn't see all the different things it
Mm.
means to be an imperfect gardener coming into the space. And so I guess I want to like, can you tell us more about what it means you think to embrace our stories fully, even the parts that are traumatic and difficult, because
Yeah.
it would make sense to me as an outsider if you never wanted to share that part of your story. And it also makes sense for you to embrace it. So just curious about that process for you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's a great question because I think, it's fascinating to me too. Like I'm very much with you. That a lot of people you just look at the, the end results and you go, wow, that was so easy. And must have just been a breeze for you. And it's like, no, actually we had hailstorms come through. I had beetles, we had, some type of virus come through the garden. I lost half my cucumbers, like there's so many different variables and variables just like life, like the weather, Mother Earth, that you cannot control. And I think it's so fascinating to me the more that like I feel like gardening slows me down and grounds me. Again, neurospicy, I'm ADHD on all the spectrums out the door the other way. And I think it's one of those things that like it for me it's the grounding. And if you think about like grounding practices, a lot of that go step on a piece of grass and listen to the birds and let like feel the wind. And you think about I've spent a lot of years in therapy, a lot of years, decades.
Yeah,
And I think
we're a big therapy crew over here. Pro therapy. Like, let's do it. Everybody, your therapist needs a therapist. Everybody needs a therapist.
yes, yeah,
Get your mind right. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's my favorite thing. Like I really honestly that's like my
Me
favorite gift
too.
to people is there. I'm like, and sometimes I walk out of therapy more mad or more frustrated than I did before I went in. But the self-reflection, it's
Mhm.
that growth aspect. And I think that, just like gardening, I use kind of the same thing in the way that like I plan my year, but I also the same way that I give myself grace and space is those things, those unvariables that you can't control. The only thing I can control is am I watering it? Am I removing the pests? Am I being conscious and aware and grounded and in the moment? Am I
Mhm.
focused in that? But also I'm not just focused on the cucumbers. I'm focused on all the things around it. Did I plant companion plants
Mm,
next to the cucumbers that help pollinate it, that help grow it? And those plants may not, put any type, like I think about marigolds. And I know this is going to be crazy. It's just be gardening references through this whole thing, but like,
No, that's our jam, right?
I love, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you look at, you plant marigolds specifically to bring bees.
Yes, come
And so
on.
there's different things in your life, just like planting marigolds next to things that need to be pollinated. You have to plant things in your life that may not bring you fruit, it may not bring you produce, but it brings the things into your life that will bring those pollinators that will help, produce and to flex into multiple different areas of that space for you, whether it be in your mind, whether it be in your daily practices, whether it be in, just your boundaries even. All of those things pollinate into your daily reality. And so I use that a lot just in the way that I plan my own consciousness. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I'm a big meditator too.
Yeah.
I, ask, believe, receive. I wake up every morning, ask, believe, receive. I go to bed every night, ask, believe, receive. Like
Yeah.
that, those are the keys to getting through everything is can you visualize it? You can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so much power in, like, I told you she was our people, right?
No, like
But
let's
We're all fam here.
there's
get
there's so many like layers to all of that. So I feel
Mhm.
like, because last episode we talked about dirt and like the power of like preparing the soil and understanding, and like a theological perspective, but also like just a pragmatic,
Mhm.
practical. You can't just go out and plant your marigolds and your cucumbers and your peppers and all these things without first removing the things that are going to be detrimental. And I think we don't always think about, you know, how our own stories continue if we don't take the time and intentionally look at and examine the things that are not giving us the right template, the right baseline, the right soil to get our lives to where we want to go. And that could be your limiting beliefs. That could be relationships that you're holding on to. That could be, I mean, there's so many different areas, but if you never take stock of what is working and what's not, then you're just going to have a garden full of weeds and mess. And
Yeah.
who wants that? You can't eat off of that. You can't thrive off of that. And there's no abundance there.
But we also kind of talked about being in the dirt, being that invisible work. It is that work of going
Mhm.
to therapy. It is that work of dealing with your trauma. It is being, I think, in the parts of our life that feel less shiny,
Yeah.
but are just as important to the foundational health of our well-being. Getting
Mhm.
into the dirt, I think, is so beautiful and powerful and important. And I just so much of what you talked about, I resonate with Lyndsey because I have a series on my TikTok that I haven't done in a while. You're making me realize I'm gonna start it back up, which is lessons from my garden, which is everything my garden teaches me from, like you mentioned, planting companion plants, how you deal with weeds, how you prune a plant, all the things we learn from it. So I have some questions, but Cass, I feel like you probably have some
No,
questions.
no, no. Like it's a rap session. Like, tell us what are the questions? Ask us all the things.
Yes, and I'm gonna put this out for both of you, which is, one, I think as you talked about that process of like coming to the garden, planting different plants, and made me think about how little we have in our control too. Like there's so much we can have in control, our resilience, our fortitude, a positive attitude. But you're right, when you're a gardener, you also realize like, oh, like sometimes it's gonna be a storm. Or well, yeah, like I plant in the Central Valley. Sometimes it's just a scorcher. We have 110
Yeah.
days, 210 Fahrenheit days, and sometimes our plants will just burn under that level of duress. And so I guess my question for both of you all as you think about embracing our life stories, reclaiming our stories, where does grace come into that process for ourselves, self-compassion? Because that's what I heard, Lyndsey, what you were saying as well is, there's all these factors that we can show up consistently and every other factor kind of is outside of our control. So I'm curious for both of you, what does that look like? Tell our stories fully, and where is grace and compassion in that process too?
I mean, I give myself a lot of grace, and I think it's something that I've really had to learn. I think growing up with illness and being having childhood illness and being in and out of the hospital from when I was like what 12, 13, it just really gave me and it almost forced me to realize that there's so many things even in my own body that are outside of my control. And it took me a long time. I'm not going to say like, oh, I was this like very wise 15-year-old sitting in the hospital bed. No, absolutely not. It took me probably until my mid 20s to realize like, Cash, you're going to have this the rest of your life. You're always going to have Crohn's disease. It's always going to be a part of you. How you react to it and how you do the things that are inside of your control will make the things outside of your control more manageable. It won't take them away, it won't eliminate them, but it will make it livable. And I think being able to, and not just livable, but like there's like I said, abundance on the other side of that lesson. And I think so it means saying no to stuff. It means not eating things that I want to eat, maybe, or exercising when I don't want to exercise, listening to my body and taking a nap. Like those kinds of things are my control, but sometimes it just makes the other things livable and available to me because I'm focusing on those, but giving myself grace and understanding that sometimes stuff is just going to happen. Like, and it just is, and rapidly accepting that even though I did all the things, I took the nap, I drank the water, I did the exercise, I might have a flare and I might, and not to be fearful of that, but just be aware of the limitation that is within me already.
God, that's yes, Cass. I think it's yes. It's one of those I had a therapist tell me a handful of years back that this concept that I kind of tell myself, and this is how I give myself grace and space today, it like was something that just stuck with me, is that just like your culinary drawer, your cutlery drawer in your kitchen, you only have so many spoons, you know, before you have to wash dishes. And most people only wash dishes, once a day, right? So in your drawer, you have a handful of spoons. You can only use so many spoons before you're out of spoons. So when you wake up, it's one of those things that like I kind of prepare myself in that ask, believe, receive, but I also like before I go to bed and then when I get up in the morning, I really try to be conscious and spend some time within myself, whether that's 30 seconds or whether that's 5 minutes or whether it's 30 minutes. It's whatever space I have in that availability. And I give myself grace of it doesn't have to be 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour. It's just whatever I have availability. If you have
It's
the
the
ability to,
time that's it's the consistency and the practice, not the time that's mandated. I love that. Okay, yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. That's
And like
good.
that, I think was such a powerful thing for me was like, man, you hear online and so many people, especially like in the space that we're in right now with social media, you have tons of influencers that have perspective. Drink the green juice, go for a walk, get your, 15 minutes, go meditate and do this one, and it's like that even within itself can be super overwhelming. So I just started in this like, as long as I do the practice, then I am making movement. And then also cast just like you. I have an invisible illness as well. It's something that like my nervous system can be on the fritz one day. I can totally end up somewhere. I have endometriosis as well. So I can have a day where like that pain is something that mentally will take me away from whatever I need to be, whether that's mom, work, friend, just life. And so I have to give myself that grace and space of, if I woke up that morning and two of my spoons are missing, well, guess we're down some spoons. So we're going to have to push something to another day and give myself a grace of like, whatever I committed to, who made the rules that you have to do it right then and there? I mean, yes, there's certain things, don't get me wrong. Like, we have to get our car registration done without getting in trouble. But, like, you
I'm
know,
bad at that. I'm super bad at that. Sorry.
Not me and Cass. Not like
like there's,
once.
That was a very specific.
I know, trigger. Whoop.
What was a
Yeah.
co-host attack? You were like,
It's almost like I knew. It's your reminder, y'all.
I'm just over here drinking my water, minding my business.
You know what's so funny is it's like, I have 5 days I need to do mine. I'm literally a
That's
day
why
behind.
it's top of mind.
I don't. I never. I since I moved to Oakland, I've been doing it so late because Oakland police like don't exist. Like there's no. But then like last year, I did my registration really late, and like my mom lives in a really nice suburb, and so I'm in Oakland for like 6 months. No one bothers me. The first day I go to her suburb, I get blipped. They're like,
It would be that way, right?
You're like, that's what I get for leaving Oakland. Oh my God. I'm going back. I'm going home.
Oh, it's too good. It's too good. But yeah, I mean, in that space, that's it. Like, if you determine whatever or how many spoons you have, and then
mm,
for one thing that you're focusing on that day, that's one spoon, you
mm,
know? So, like, if you have 5 spoons, great. Pick 5 things out of your to-do list, and those are the 5 things that you get done.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and there's 300 other things that are not, so you don't have enough spoons. Don't
yeah,
burn, because my thing is I'll push myself to burn out. I've done it multiple times in my life. That
same.
like sacrifice to succeed, like I'll push way too much, too far, and then I end up sick and nervous system on the fritz. And then it's like, great, now I'm down for weeks. So what's the point? It ends up
Yeah.
hurting you in the long run. So cast like you, I had to like really give myself the grace, especially with like physical health, you
Yeah.
know?
Because if you don't have your physical health, you really can't do any. I mean,
Mhm.
literally, you can't do anything. But I think we can eventually. Your body will tell you we're done.
Yeah. Yep.
So just listen to the quiet warnings.
Yep.
I think I do want to recognize though that's also for so many people that's like a privilege, right? I was very lucky growing up because there was a person in my neighborhood who had Crohn's also, and he was younger than me and was diagnosed like significantly after me. I was already in college when he was diagnosed. And his parents didn't have the same health coverage and didn't have access to the same doctors. And his life was very different than mine simply because of that economic privilege and that economic difference and the access to adequate health care. So I think there's also people who may not even have the ability or space to recognize those issues and challenges because there's no support around
Yeah.
that, which is also which we'll talk about in our I think the next episode we're talking about like hidden illness and chronic illness and stuff like that. But Ciarra, question back to you, like how are you giving yourself grace?
Oh, I really struggle with that. I mean, I think that's something that
That's why I asked you.
Cass helps me go through it a lot because I think like something that I really felt inspired by when you shared in the beginning, Lyndsey, is like realizing how much I struggle to integrate my full story of my life. And there's a lot of things that I feel my emotions commit. There's a lot of things that I feel a lot of shame about or self judgment about. So I'd say that like it's my deepest work to find a sense of self compassion. I think something that comes up for me the most is like just imagining, like thinking my life would be different at 31 and like feeling so much grief about what my life is. And I think like yeah, struggling to integrate a full story of where I am and what has unfolded. I think that I struggle a lot. So I think today's conversation is like a beginning step for me to find some self-compassion. Sorry for my emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
First of all,
apologies.
never apologize for your
Yeah.
emotions. We
No, I
love you.
Yeah.
no,
No,
Yeah,
that's
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 strength right
real.
there.
yeah, I
That's
think it's
strength.
Facts.
thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. And I think that like yeah, I think that I just thought I've always been someone who's had so much excitement about life. And I think like coming into 30s is difficult because I think the messaging societally is like you're gonna feel this like I don't know this like a lot this radical alignment, but for me it's maybe felt like the opposite. Like a lot has just come up around my life and what is authentic to me and what isn't. And I think I've struggled to see every moment as growth versus like seeing moments of where I would go back and I guess I struggle with seeing it as through a growth mindset versus like a shame based mindset. And that's been hard for me. I don't know. I'm curious for y'all, maybe if that came up for you in your 30s or what that looked like, or if you felt that pressure to just have it all there. Cause I think that I felt like I came into 30 and it's like the world is like, you're an adult and your choices have to be perfect. And it's like, all, like in your 20s, you feel like you have this grace of self discovery. And then it felt like when I turned 30, I was supposed to like have this finite understanding of myself. But it's actually felt like more than anything, I'm kind of back in a place of self discovery and growth, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I First of all, I identify so much with what you're saying because I did feel like I mean, I got married at 30, right? So like I felt like, look at me, I'm doing all the things. I met my now ex-husband. Let's just not bury the lead. I met him at 28 and I was like, oh, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to be married. I'm going to have a kid at 32. I'm going to, blah, 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 blah. And I did all those things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I look back at my 30s and I wish I would have, not wish, I think that my life would be different if I had not been so adamant about fitting into the boxes of other people and fitting into the boxes of a narrative that ultimately now in my 40s I realized did not serve me. And I think it is extremely hard to
Yeah.
sit in that, but also being almost a decade or a little over a decade older, I do feel like you're and being able to be your friend and watch you in this season, you're exactly asking the right questions that I think a lot of 30-year-olds do not ask
Mm.
and do not take the time because there again like you said there's so much societal pressure, especially for women, especially for Black women, especially for Black queer women. There's
Yeah.
all these expectations that you're supposed to know yourself, but all those definitions are anti to the things that you're supposed to quote unquote be doing, right? And so what like you're trying to figure out what all those categories mean to you and how you live them, but then you're still being held to this standard that quite frankly, like we said at the beginning, doesn't make anyone happy.
100%.
Why would
100%. It's like one more time. It's like it's wild. Wild. And so I'm at the end. I'm late 30s. And all of this really so you're right where you're meant to be. Right where you're meant to be. I have unraveled everything that I built in my 20s throughout my 30s and went, what are all the things? What are the weeds in the garden? What are the pests that are driving me crazy?
I'm right
What
that.
are all of these things? And what are the flowers that I want to plant now? Maybe I never really liked those flowers. I want different ones. Or maybe I don't really like to eat squash, which I don't. Butternut, but not regular. Why am I planting squash? Because somebody else wants it? Nobody in my house eats squash. I'm just growing something to grow it. Great. For
That is
what?
so funny. That is
You
so,
know?
because I swear, I was like, oh my gosh, like, everyone says start your garden with tomatoes. Because it's like, I hate tomatoes. I don't
Yeah,
like them.
it's like,
I
why?
don't like them. But
Yeah.
it's easy to cultivate. What am I going to do with them? I'm not going to eat them.
Mm.
I don't like tomatoes. I don't like pasta sauce. I don't like
No
ketchup.
pasta.
Well,
Yeah,
I
no, I don't
like
like ketchup.
pasta. I mean, I can make it work.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose what I was going to put on my pasta, it would be pesto. So why?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yes, girl.
this is the easy thing. This is the easiest thing to plant. It's such a
Yep.
forgiving, you can do it
Mhm.
anywhere. I don't want to.
Yeah. No,
I don't want
100%.
to.
And I think that's a huge, I think anybody who's in that space that you're in right now, 1000%, like the number one question that you should be asking yourself too is who made the rule book?
I'm
Who
right
made the
that.
rule book?
Lyndsey.
Like, did, like, honestly, because that's like, I think the biggest thing, like my biggest realization in my 30s is
Yeah.
I make the rules.
Mm.
Like I make my boundaries. I
Yeah.
make the rules in my life.
Yeah.
I like what outcomes and the things that like why am I disappointed in myself?
Yeah.
For what? Like
Mhm.
I've overseen adversities. I probably shouldn't be alive and living here. Another reason why I say my life is a permission slip for everyone else to show up,
Say
Mm.
more about
to
that.
break the rules. Huh?
I loved how you said that, but say more about that. Like I've
Yeah.
heard you say that before in other conversations, but like I
Yeah.
just want you to break it down for me because I think it's such a beautiful way to think about life.
So there's been a handful of like really traumatic life experiences. I've been in really major car accidents as one that like, jaws of life opening up in my teens of, police officers and EMTs going, how the hell did you make it out alive? And weren't my fault. Like I was hit by drunk drivers twice in Phoenix, Arizona, one of which they were going, like they hit me at 55 miles an hour from the back end. And because if I was driving a 1972 Beetle, every time I washed her, the orange paint would just, come off a little bit just shade down. It ended up being brown by the time I ended up getting hit. But that drunk driver hit me at 55 miles an hour. It was 2 millimeters off from hitting the engine where they hit me. And the engine in an old bug is in the back where like the police were like, this car should have exploded. And the police were sitting right across from the stoplight. When they hit me, there was a police officer in the saw the whole accident go down. So like instances like that in my life, I've been in other, traumatic field that I won't get like super deep into, but situations with, not family members any longer, but people that were brought into my life when I was a child that, where a lot of that sexual abuse and things like that, I definitely knew it was wrong. I fought back a lot in different situations that, other people in my family, like my mother, were abused because of, and we were physically abused for, not complying, not saying what was supposed to be said, not doing what we were supposed to do. And so a lot of those moments, like, I look back and like being a kid and just the rate of the amount of times that I have looked in my mind and my mind has been strong enough to go, do not take your life. You're meant to be here for a purpose. The things that you're going through are strengthening you to give you the voice, to give you the story, to again, be the permission slip, to be that space for someone else, to be a beacon of hope for somebody else to not say, I can't make it through this. And so I think a collection of all of those things have really, again, when I wake up in the morning, I go, I'm alive because I'm meant to be loud. I'm
Mm.
meant to share. I'm meant to talk. I should probably do it more. This is a good reminder because, Cass, this a lot of my podcasts are work, they're corporate related,
Yeah.
which inclusion is great. Talking about all of those things are super impactful as well. But these types of real talks where I have the ability to go, this is really my truth. And when people meet me in person, I do my best to not open it of like, hi, I'm a widow. I've survived all these crazy things. I've gone through trauma, but it always ends up coming out at
Yeah.
some point in time in that relationship, no matter whether it's work or personal or, just an acquaintance. The right people show
Yeah.
up at the right time. And I believe universe is led. We signed up for what we signed up for, being present and just being in the moment. And I think that was my biggest in my 30s too, is just like, just be present. Be present in the moment and know that the moment that you're in is brought to you for a purpose, whether you're supposed to be the perceiver or you're the one that's supposed to be perceived.
Yeah.
Like, you could be living either. Maybe you're just perceiving the situation because you're supposed to learn from the other person making those actions, and then vice versa. Maybe you're being put in that situation because somebody else is supposed to learn from the way that you handle it, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it is, your 30s are, and I almost like, where does this come from that like 30 is this number where you're
Mhm.
supposed to have, you haven't been an adult long enough to even have good credit. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's just so backwards, right? I really feel like it's a time to figure it out and to kind of almost, it's that thing of like coming off of a coast or coming off of like this like automatic kind of reel of you're just supposed to, I'm doing all the things and like I checked all the boxes, and then you realize, well, now what? And then what?
Yeah.
I think I want to ask too, when you start having those realizations of like, okay, this is no longer serving me, this is something that I want to change about myself or my surroundings, what can we do, or what have you done when the people around you aren't ready for those shifts and changes? Like, how did you, because it's like you want to stay, some people you do want to stay in community with, some people you're not going to stay in community with, and that's what it is. But how do you negotiate one, who to stay in with and who not, but then also their reaction to your changes? It's like, wait a second, 6 months ago, this was fine. And now you're putting it up a boundary. Like, what's wrong
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah.
Are you on drugs? That was
Yeah.
the question I got. I got that question from my mom, like legit. She's like, are
Really?
you on drugs? And I was like, no, I literally just don't want to come home for Christmas because this is a traumatic and not a good environment for me. And I would rather spend my money at my apartment in Texas by myself. Like, that's literally my choice. Because it's not like you're sending me money to fly home, but I also did not spend the money on drugs.
Yeah. Like, but also note.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just me. But how have you, like, what do you do in reaction when people are like, "Ugh, I can't believe you're doing that"?
It's crazy because I think like there were so many people that responded in so many different ways. Like, I had people that were softly and quietly clapping for me. Like, they wouldn't say like, "Oh, I really love that you're just like coming into yourself and that you're being bold and loud and, unfiltered," is what everybody says. Unhinged. I'm like, I'm not unhinged. This is just myself. Welcome to an ADHD,
Yeah.
crazy one over here. But I lost a lot of people. And I don't remember who said this, but I think it might have been Oprah. Was like, every person in your life is like a part of a tree. You have
Mm.
roots, you have, you have the trunk, you have branches, and you have leaves. And so I took a lot of that to heart in some of this, but I had a lot of people that just like you said, Cass, like they grieved almost, or like had this sense of grief that they expected me to, like, they would still challenge me to show up the way that I was showing up before. Like, they were upset that I wasn't the version of myself. And it would always be like a snarky, like, "Oh, you've changed. Wow, you just seem a little different."
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, I do seem different because this is myself. Like, you only had a fraction of the puzzle. You only had one piece, and I just gave you the full picture. And if that scares you and it's uncomfortable, that's on that other person. And, that didn't come overnight. That took a lot of like holding myself to the flame and holding myself to the fire and saying, I have every right and I am so worthy. And, continuing to tell myself and having those types of mantras every day. But I think it is one of those that like you do lose people, but it's like seasons. To bring it
Mhm.
back to kind of the mother earth of it is, you're going to have people that are going to fall off. You're going to have people that are going to grow with you. You're going to have people that are going to grow beside you. And
You're
I
gonna
think
have
all of
new
that.
people that are gonna come into your space. Like, I think one thing that not loved, but I realized that some of the relationships I was holding on to that I thought were like super close and friend were not as close as they were. But I didn't know that until I had new people come into my life to show me what true intimate friendship is, to show me what care looks like, to show me what love is. But I wouldn't have space or time for those people that are here now if I hadn't lost some of the other folks before.
100%. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's really inspiring to hear both of you all say that because I definitely going through a lot of major transitions the last couple of years. I've had some friends leave, and I think that Cass and I talk a lot about deconstruction on this podcast. And I think one byproduct of growing up fundamentalist is like you do kind of learn like to survive in the world, like you make everything your issue, like your fault. Cause it makes things, and then you have an easy answer, like this relationship ended or this friendship ended because of me. Like that seems easy, but there's also like a turning against the self that's very violent and can be like a cannibalizing of the self. And what I loved in what you shared is like those relationships change and the narrative wasn't, it's my fault. It's, this is part of my expansion. And if those relationships can't come with me, like that's okay. And I think that that's a really healthy and important perspective. So that really taught me something. And I think, as we come towards, I know we're near time and I have a 12:30. So I,
This got by so fast.
I know, right? And it's always like that. It's
I
always
know
like that.
I'm always the
Every
top.
time we're like, oh, we're just gonna have this person.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do a part two.
Oh yeah.
Like
Well,
the
Yes, please.
last three episodes, we're like,
Yeah.
we promise we'll do a part two. We're gonna continue this conversation. Oh,
it's kind of nice is we started to do a part two to our gardening episode, and this kind of became part two to our
it
gardening
really
episode.
did.
So
Love it.
it worked out. We have our first part two. Yeah.
In the edit, we'll change it. This is part two of
Yes, exactly. But something you said I think would be good for our sacred descent question is like at the beginning, in the middle, you talked a bit about like weeds and like the weeding process in our life. And like something that I think about as a gardener is like weeds can actually be really beautiful. And like identifying what is a weed can be difficult. And sometimes weeding a garden is a full day or a full week. It takes a long process. Like just tending to what shouldn't be there is as important to tending to what should be there. And so I'm curious for you both, like what weeds are you uprooting? What narratives about your own lives are you maybe transforming, uprooting, challenging? And what's that look like for you? So that's my sacred descent question, which is, yeah, what weeds are you uprooting so you can live more fully or feel better about your own narrative in life?
That question.
You always kill me. Now I'm gonna be emotional. Oh my gosh, I really am gonna be emotional. Okay. I
Uh,
think
Crying podcast today.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? I didn't even drink or anything.
Yeah.
You're
No,
so
I'm so sober Sally over here.
fair.
I think one of the things that I really have been working on in therapy is that I am worthy of, and I am not hard to love. That's been the
Yes.
harder one of like really feeling like, and I think this is like my mother wound, right? And feeling like the parts of me that are quirky and we like some people might consider it weird are not too much and do not make me unlovable or even unlikable. And I think so much of my early adulthood and early life in general, my adolescence was like not just be smaller, like literally be smaller, right? But also be less. And if you're less, then you're not a problem and therefore someone will care about and will love you. And so like really trying to like unpack and unravel that has been like really hard. Like I it's one thing to tell yourself, but then it's another thing to let someone in enough and let people in enough to do it in an actionable way. Like
Yeah. Yeah, you getting me? Same. I, that's Cass. Yeah, girl. That's emotionally the same. I think the and that I'm worthy of joy.
Mm.
Like why? It's been so fascinating for me. Is like I've held myself to this flame of you've got to succeed. You've got to do this. You have to have resilience, 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 resilience. And it's gotten me to where I am. I'm not complaining, but it is one of those that like unraveling that my sense of worth is what I succeed in, not what I also fail in. Because failures are those lessons as well. And those traumas are lessons as well. They make me just as worthy as someone else who hasn't had those things, and that I'm allowed to have joy. I don't just have to focus on, unraveling all of the things that are, that have held me back or challenged me in that space, or cast like you have, pushed me to feel as if I'm not worthy of love. I've been widowed for over a decade at this point, and I've been single for almost that entire decade. And it's been really hard to like opened those doors to say, I am worthy of a relationship, or someone would love to be in this situation, to raise somebody else's child, to be in this environment of pure chaos. Real talk, y'all. There's always a tornado around here, but it's beautiful in its own way, right? And somebody's
Insert
praying for
Frank
that.
Ocean.
Yeah.
So
you know so that's been a really hard one, but the that I am allowed to have joy throughout all of that has also been something that, like, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years in a lot of different healing methods. I've done everything from ayahuasca to psychedelics in that space, to therapy, to just retreats, to just simply adding things like meditation and different types of health stuff for myself, daily walks. I think the healing doesn't always have to just look at the ugly. It can also look at adding beauty.
Mm.
So slowing down and not feeling like I have to take on everything has been a huge focus for me over the last year, of just, you know, wherever I can fit it. And also doing things and finding things that bring me joy. I don't have to do something that brings everybody else joy. I'm such a people pleaser. I was born in the space of put everyone else first. You have to take care of everybody else. And I always forgot to take care of myself. And so I've really had a heavy one in that is, you know, somebody can't love me if I can't love myself. And letting people come in and letting people help, and having that community of, like, life is not perfect. I can't be perfect. The mess is the beauty. I think, in giving that grace and space in that.
I
yeah.
love it. Mess is first of all, both of you shared deeply profound, deeply incredible, and it like just also thank you all for your vulnerability because it's just been like I have gained so much from this experience. Like whether our listeners gain
Same.
a lot, they already will, but I've just gained so much from both of you. So just thank you for sharing your story so openly and what your process of like continual development and self love looks like. I think for me, it's a lot of like, which has been like my lifelong work, which is definitely like, what is my story of my life without shame? Like, what does that look like? How can I uproot some of that shame to give life to what is. Like Cass knows about her. If you're in my life, you know about her. I love Ask Polly, the Vice columnist, and like
Yeah.
something she always talks about is like who is it like how do we experience our life when shame is like the prism through which we see it? And I think I'm really trying to work on that, like just seeing all parts of me as good or as human experience, even failure as human experience as positive, like that self-compassionate mindset.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is, like, who am I outside of, like, hustle and achievement? Like, I think there are things I loved about self-employment, but the one thing that it gives you is, like, this hustle mentality because even if you sign enough clients to be good for 6 months, you're like, "Well, what about a year? Or what about 18 months?" Like, you're this is feast or famine energy, and I think I've found even as I've started my work, I've been pushing myself my full-time job now, I'm pushing myself to maintain the same level of productivity in my TikTok and on my newsletter and in my personal business as I am at work, and while learning a new job, that's actually just not a compassionate way to be to myself, and, like, I even told Cass, like, "We lost a couple Patreon members to not posting enough," and she was like, "Let them go, like, it's okay," and, like, just getting out of this
We
perfection.
lost one paid member.
It was really hard for me, Lindsay. Lost members on my
I was like,
Yeah.
let's put it. Let's.
Yeah.
and it's that perfectionism that turns into violence, and I think Cass helps me a lot with that. But I would say those are the 2 things is what is my life story? How can I tell my life story more generously? And how can I like myself outside of achievement? Like both of you have autoimmune condition that when I'm stressed, I lose my hair. I'm gonna tag the name actually, which is lichen planopilaris. I named that because a lot of Black women get misdiagnosed with traction alopecia when they have that condition. So if any Black women are listening and you're having hair loss, like push to get that biopsy from your dermatologist because I had to, and I had a real condition that does need antibiotics and topical treatment, and that's important. So I want to highlight that. But same for you all, like my body also has new limitations. So how do I honor that in how I work versus being productivity focused, being like somatically focused around what feels good and what's healthy?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, we are coming up on time, Lyndsey. You are a gem. I love, 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 love spending any waking moment I can with you. Um, and I can't wait for the next time we talk, but I hope everybody got something great from this. If you're not a member of the Patreon, jump on in here.
What you're doing, what you doing?
We need to recoup that one lost member,
Yeah.
actually. So, like, if it's one person, 2 people, that's fine. It'll just, Ciarra needs that for the next 6
I
months.
do. For my sense of validation, please sign up for my therapy trauma work. My father didn't love me, guys, so please sign up for this. I love it.
Okay, it's only funny because it's true. No, just kidding. Okay. Love you long time. Love you forever. Thank you again, Lyndsey, for this time.
I just want to say thank you. I appreciate y'all. This has been absolutely beautiful. And thank you also for being vulnerable and giving me a space to share my story. So love both of you and big hugs.
Yeah, we're so grateful to you. You brought just so much richness. We're having you back. We're having you
Let's do
back.
it.
So just thank you, Lyndsey, for taking the time and for sharing your story and your wisdom with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anytime.
If today's conversation resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more people find this space of exploration and connection.
And if you want to go deeper, support us on Patreon. Your membership helps us keep these conversations going, and it gives you access to exclusive content.
Because this isn't just a podcast, it's a community. And no matter where you are on your journey, we're right there with you.